Hello, everyone, and welcome to another demonstration with LeoStream. My name is Sarah Wiles, and I'm a customer success manager here. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Karen Gondoli, our CEO and VP of Product Management. Karen will be discussing using LeoStream to manage retail environments on the edge. She'll cover some of the benefits of using LeoStream in retail environments, such as centralizing the management of point of sale systems and leveraging existing assets to lower total cost of ownership. She'll also dive into a live demo to show the LeoStream platform in action. So with that, Karen, I will hand it over to you to jump into things.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. So why don't we just kind of keep going and start with a little discussion really on why you want to do this in the first place. And I call this retail on the edge because really I want to talk about how you can use LeoStream to manage a dis dispersed workforce that's across different locations. So really you can think of this as anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be retail. It could be just any kind of enterprise or SMB that has offices or locations just about anywhere. And then what you do with Edge is you actually locate little edge devices at each of these locations instead of having a centralized data center for all of them. So while I'm going to talk about retail and point of sale systems, there's a lot of applicability for the solution that you're going to see here. So why might you want to do this? Well, some of the things that Sarah talked about. Really, the thing about using LeoStream and Edge together is that you can really simplify IT's job, because now what you're doing with Edge often is using hyperconverged infrastructures. And there's a number of different hyperconverged infrastructure companies that LeoStream integrates with, such as Scale Computing or Nutanix, Verge.io, just to name a few. But the nice thing about HCI, hyperconverged infrastructures, is that they're one box that you roll into your data center or into your edge location, and it contains your storage, your compute, your networking. So there's not the complication that can be associated with building out a data center and different types of VDI solutions. So simplifying IT, obviously, once you do that, you lower your cost just for IT staff in general, make their lives easier, make them more productive so they can focus on other tasks at hand. One of the other things that you can do is also, like I said, leverage the assets that you have. And this relates to the client side facing side. Obviously, if you're new to hyperconvergence for structures, you're buying the pieces there. But a lot of times at your different retail locations or offices, what have you, you have existing devices. These could be thin clients, they could be laptops, different types of terminals that users want to sit down at and log in to the desktop that you're ultimately going to connect them to and the applications that it hosts. You want a solution where you can leverage as much of the existing hardware as you have. And LeoStream works with a number of different client devices so that you can do it. The other thing that you need to keep in mind is the peripherals. If you're going to have existing printers, for example, in case of point of sales, you have different receipt printers. You want to make sure that the solution you have supports passing those devices through to the remote desktop that you're ultimately connecting the user to. And one of the nice things with LeoStream is we do provide our own set of USB drivers that come with our clients and our agents. And what we've heard out in the field is that we can handle devices that aren't handled as well by just the standard RDP USB redirection that you might have, or printer redirection. Kind of along those same lines, you have these existing clients, you want to reuse them. And another reason that's important, not just for saving money, but is also providing a consistent end user experience. You want your retail staff to not necessarily need to be trained in complex technologies. You want them to be able to sit down at the client or stand if they're at a register and easily be able to get their job done. And you'll see in the demo how the interface for LeoStream is very straightforward for the end user. And then the last thing I want to talk about, I've been saying retail on the edge and how you can take edge devices and put them in each of your offices or retail locations. But obviously, the last thing you want is a single point of failure. If I have an edge device sitting on that edge location, what if that device goes down? Well, the great thing about using LeoStream to manage your entire organization is that you can manage all of these edge locations from a single LeoStream instance and then leverage other types of hosting systems to provide business continuity. So maybe that's the cloud, maybe that's a data center where you have an existing VMware environment. The whole idea is the end user never knows. They just sit down at their station, they log in, maybe they're going to that edge device, maybe something's happened to that edge device and now LeoStream is redirecting them to your failover location. You always want to make sure that your business is up and running, particularly if you're a retail device. Time is money in all of those cases. So that's enough talking there. Let's go ahead and show some of this in action. To do that, I'm going to share my screen, and it's going to look a little bit different than it normally does on these demos. Let's hide that. So what you see here is our LeoStream Connect client. It's a software client, runs on Linux, Windows, and Mac. Obviously, I'm a Windows machine here. And you can install it so that any laptop acts as basically a kiosk. It's the only thing the user has access to. I can log in here. So I'm going to log in as one particular user here. And then what you're going to see is I'm actually, before I'm connected to a machine, in my case, the way I have my LeoStream environment set up, it's prompting me to ask which USB devices do I want to redirect on here. So now if you have a thermal printer for printing receipts attached to the client device, you would see it here and the user could pass it on through. In my case, I just have a simple USB device. But you'll notice these other devices, they're actually disabled, and that's done through LeoStream policies. I'm actually restricting what the user can pass through. So since the user knows, hey, I've got this stuff plugged in, we show it to them, but then the policy says, no, I can't, you're not allowed. And you can actually, through the policies I'll show you in a bit, make it so the user never even sees this dialog. You will automatically pass through the appropriate devices through their machine. Again, that's the nice consistent end user experience. They just log in, boom, their machine's up and running, ready to use. So if I go ahead and connect there, that took too long. I get for waiting too long. That's a nice security feature. The connections will time out on you. Now it's going to connect me. And I don't know if you heard in the background that little beeping noise. That was the USB device actually being connected into the back-end desktop there. All right. So now let's see what's going on in the background. And then just in case, we can actually open up the thing and you can see my Kingston device right there. So now I have all the documents that I might need here. All right, so let's leave that there and show you how that got set up in the connection broker. So here now, I'm going to log in as the main administrator. This is the web interface for the LeoStream Connection Broker. I'm logging in as the main admin so I can show you configuration information. But before we go into configuration, let's look at the log and show you what was going on in the background when Mabel logged in there. So here I can see successful Connection Broker login, offered the machines. So here you notice right here, the primary pool, my point of sale VMs, it was empty. Well, thankfully, I had a backup pool set up, and so the user got failed over to the backup pool, which they then requested a connection to, and they got connected, and now the LeoStream agent is sending the notifications on in. So now what I also have set up in the broker is some alerts so that when that happened, when the user failed over to that backup pool, I actually, as an admin, got an email in the background. So I know that happened. So that way I can actually go and look at what's going on. Why is my point of sale pool empty? What's happening in the background there? So let's look at how these things are set up. Why did that fail over? And how did I get the alert? Okay, so to do that, oops. First, let's log in as my user here. So before I logged in as the main connection broker administrator, now I'm actually going to log in with my account. And what I have is a role that allows me only to see a pool of machines. So I am considered the desktop administrator for that particular pool of POS VMs. And I can come in here and I can see, oh, they're actually all powered off right now. And that could be because again, the system that they're hosted on is powered down. There's various reasons that could be, but I could come in here and attempt to power them back on so that users can connect to them. I can also even come in here once it's powered on, say it successfully powers on, I can click view and actually connect to that machine to see if something's wrong with the machine itself. So as a desktop administrator, the connection broker gives me a place to administer just the machines that are in that particular edge location. Now as the main administrator, that's another configuration piece. How did I set up the connection broker so that I, as the desktop admin, only saw that pool of machines? So now let's step through all of that and show how this all happens. And to start, we're going to start at centers. So here in the setup section, when I first started configuring this environment, the first thing I did was obviously hook myself up to all of my edge locations and my main data center. I did that because my main data center is for business continuity. It's the failover. So I have one scale computing cluster that I'm calling my edge location. And then I have a VMware environment that's over in my data center, and I'm going to use it for backup just in case. So once I had that, then what I did was I created pools to support this use case. So I did a couple things here. One, because I knew at each edge location, I wanted to have an admin managing just those machines. I first created a pool that was everything in the particular scale computing cluster. That's that one edge location. Now, there are a lot of things, other things that could be hosted on that particular edge device. Maybe not everything is for the POS system. So then I created a sub pool of just the POS machines. And that is actually the pool that I'm allowed to access through my role, which I'll show you here in a bit. So I have those two main pools there. Now, I also, you notice, have a pool of backup VMs that are hosted on my corporate data center. Protocol, you notice, was just very simple RDP. Not going to talk about protocols in this particular demo, but I am going to talk a little bit about power control and release plans. There's a lot of ways that you can configure these different plans based on how you want your users to work. In this case, what I'm saying is this is a retail location. So essentially someone is showing up at the beginning of the day. I want to power the machine on, connect it to that client. And then I just want to leave that machine running until I close my shop. So what I have is basically a reboot on release machine or release plan here, so that at the end of the working day, the machine reboots, and this may allow it to pick up Windows updates, for example. So now the question is, when does this get released? Well, that's done through my release plan here. Here I have a release at end of day release plan, which says if someone logs out, fine, that's great. You might have different personnel who are using the machine from time to time. So you want to release the machine when the user logs out, but then you also want to make sure that it gets released at the end of 12 hours. So that way, when the machine is released, it's rebooted at the end of the day. So to show how this all comes together, here I have a policy called Store One. So in the Store One policy, it's really in the pool assignments where most of this comes together and it gets interesting. If I edit this pool assignment here, you'll see that I'm offering one desktop from my POS VMs pool. So obviously when I boot up a kiosk in the store, I want it to just connect to a particular VM. But I have a backup pool selected, and I've selected a number of conditions that would cause me to fail over to that pool. In this case, the policy is set up to only offer a machine that's running. And so there were no available machines in that pool and it failed over. But it also could be based on the agent not running. You can see the different options that you have here. Now, I offer a regular primary pool and a backup pool, and I can actually associate these plans differently based on which machine the pool comes out of. So this allows you to treat machines differently if it's the primary or the backup, which is important if you're failing over, for example, to the cloud. Because here you notice, well, if it's the primary machine, I'm saying just reboot it on release at the end of the day. But if it's the backup machine, what I really want to do is maybe power it down as soon as the user's done with it. Maybe I want to delete it as soon as the user's done with it so that I can save on compute costs or just capacity in my data center when I don't need it. The other part I want to point out in the policy here is on the advanced settings, which is the USB device management. As I mentioned, LeoStream does include USB drivers in our agent and our LeoStream Connect client, and that works for Windows and Linux right now. And through the policy, I can do things like block all USB devices. So even if the protocol itself would allow redirection, I can block it through LeoStream. I can connect everything. Or in this case, you can even limit it down to vendor product IDs or device types. So I was allowed to pass through my Kingston device because I selected a mass storage. But this vendor and product ID, this happens to be an Epson thermal printer. So if you have one of those connected, you can just say, you know what, I know the user needs this to get their job done. Connect that device automatically when the user logs in, and then don't allow them to connect anything back through. So I created a policy here for my one edge location. Then what I want to make sure is that policy gets assigned to users when they log in from that particular edge location. So I actually created a location called store one here. And essentially here what I did is said, well, I know user has to log in using the LeoStream API because that's the LeoStream Connect. And then I put it on a certain subnet because that's the network where that particular edge retail location is. The role then, this is how, when I logged in, I got to see just that pool of machines and then reboot them and view them if I needed to. But there was some functionality on that desktops page that wasn't available to me. And that's done through my role. Here you'll notice in roles, it's all about giving the right level of permissions and access to the administrator interface to the right people. So I can give view only or completely block access based on the role. And in this case, I have just access to the POS VMs machines. And you can see how I've set up certain levels of access to the different functionality that's on that page. How I got that role then is done through assignments. So in this case, I'm just using very simple Active Directory authentication, username, password, but LeoStream does support a lot of different MFA functionality. So if you do need two-factor authentication in your stores, it's probably important so no one else walks up to your kiosks and logs in, then you can do that using Duo, Okta, number of different solutions that work with LeoStream. But here, what I have, I basically am saying anyone in my group, maybe you want to actually set up a group for your retail employees, anyone who's coming in from store one, they get the store one policy. If it's a staff VM manager or logging in from a web browser, well, they're actually just an admin with that store one admin role and no policy there for them. So that pretty much sums up how Mabel got assigned to the one machine that she got and was allowed to pass through the Kingston device. It showed how I was able to log in at a web browser and just get access to the one VM pool. The other thing I'll point out, because I said I would show you alerts, here on the systems page, there's this alerts tab. So this gives you a way to have the connection broker push notifications out via email, again, so that you see, oh, hey, somebody wasn't offered a desktop from one of their pools. So now you know, without having to constantly monitor the logs in the connection broker, okay, something's up, I need to go check that. You could set it to center offline. That way, if the edge hosting platform goes down, the broker, when it tried to scan it, would take the center offline and send you an email. So now you would know something's going on. Obviously, shouldn't have your connection broker on the edge device for that to work. But you can architect the connection broker to ensure these different types of business continuity and DR scenarios all work seamlessly. So that was a lot. I will stop there and pass you back over to Sarah to wrap us up.
Awesome. Thanks, Karen. Well, if you would like to learn more about the LeoStream platform, you can visit our website at leostream.com. We have a lot of case studies and demos highlighting different use cases with LeoStream, and you can also request a fully supported free trial. If you would like to connect with a team member directly, you can email sales@leostream.com. We're always happy to assist you with a proof of concept or answer any other questions you may have. We look forward to hearing from you.